Hey everybody, welcome to week 1 of the Sandhill Sling Sew Along. Today I'm recording in very cold Wisconsin. It's -2 degrees today and snowing. So I'm happy to be inside sewing and hanging out with you guys. I'm just going to go over what the Sandhill Sling looks like and the views that are shown and kind of talk about some of the parts that make up the Sandhill. Okay, so there are 2 views of the Sandhill to sew. And this is view A. This has the front zippered pocket. Open it up. It's lined inside. And this little zipper cover is optional. You can have your zipper exposed if you don't want to include that piece. And then they both have a main compartment with a pocket that has an elasticized top. And that kind of just keeps your thing secure and makes sure the pocket doesn't flop open when you're using it. And then they both have a little D-ring here with a swivel snap hook with an adjustable strap. You can use webbing, or my other sample has a fabric strap. I'll show you that. So this is view A. And this is view B of the Sandhill Sling. This has the patch pocket with the flap. It's got a little snap on it. And I like to keep my phone in my front pocket. And then this one I did a little leather tab for the zipper pull. Same thing, pocket inside. And this has the fabric strap, so you can sew it with the fabric if you like. For week 1, we're going to go over the materials list and what you'll need to sew the sling. And we'll work on cutting and interfacing. And then we're going to go through steps 1 and 2, which is making the strap and the shoulder connector. So let's get going. Okay, so I'm going to go over the material requirements and supplies for the Sandhill Sling. This will be for either view. We'll just kind of go over the different parts. So the exterior fabric, I recommend a 8 to 10 ounce canvas weight for the exterior fabric. If you're adventurous and have had experience with cork fabric or wax canvas, I would go ahead and use that. If you haven't used those substrates before, I might hold off and just try it with a regular cotton canvas for now. And then quilting cotton for the lining, you'll need 5/8 of a yard for that. These are both based on 44-inch width fabric. So just keep that in mind when you're buying. Also, if you are going to make a fabric strap for your sling, instead of webbing, you're going to need a full yard of your exterior fabric. So that's it for the fabrics. You're going to also need fusible woven interfacing. I use the Pellins SF101. You'll need 1 1/4 yards for that, and 1 1/2 if making a fabric strap. Next, we're going to go over the zippers. The zippers are a handbag zipper, so they're 1 1/4 inch width. I have designed this pattern to use zippers that are longer than necessary to make it easier for assembly. You could make them exact. It's totally up to you. I recommend it this way. So the long zipper is an 18-inch head-to-head zipper. That means you can bring both pulls to the top and open it from either side, or you can bring them to one side or the other. It just makes it super easy. Doesn't matter what shoulder you're going to wear it on, it can open easily from either way. And then the 10-inch zipper, just a simple 10-inch zipper with a long pull on it. If you wanted and you're used to using zipper tape by the yard, you'll need about a yard for that. And let's see, 3 pulls if you're making view A, and just 2 pulls if you're making view B. So that's the zipper. Then a few of the little bits left over. You're going to need a 1-inch D-ring, a 1 1/2 inch strap slider, and a 1 1/2 inch wide swivel snap that swivels around. That is my preference. It makes it easy to get on and off without the strap getting twisted. You don't have to try and take it off and readjust it. That's just my take. Elastic, we've got 1/4 inch wide elastic for the interior pocket. If you don't have a 1/4 inch wide elastic, you might have something else that's a little bit wider. I know elastic can be kind of hard to come by lately, but we can go over using a slightly wider elastic if that's something you have on hand. The other things are a size 14 needle. I use a jeans needle most of the time. This is the Schmetz brand. I like to have my mechanical chalk pencil, and the only other thing I have is some wax cord that I'm going to use for the zipper pull. I think I'm going to use this. You'll also need 1.5 yards of 1.5 inch wide webbing. So that's 1.5 inch width by 1.5 yards long. This is a cotton webbing. You can probably find other kinds of blends of webbing. The other option, again, is to sew the fabric strap, and we'll go over that as well. You'll also want to make sure you print off or grab your pattern sheet from the pattern if you're using the paper pattern, and cut that out for the shoulder connector. And then make sure you print out or grab your label sheet. That's going to be super helpful when we're cutting. I just cut out the little labels, and I have my little clover clips, and I just clip those to the fabric as I cut and make them in nice stacks. I cut out all the pieces and clip them together as they correspond to one another. It makes it organized and easy to sew. Okay, so now we're getting ready to cut and fuse our fabrics, and I'll show you a little tip that I use sometimes to speed up the process. Okay, so here's a little tip I like to use. I'll lay my fusible woven interfacing with the fusible side up on my ironing board, and then I'll place the fabric wrong side down on top and fuse it into place. And I'll use my cutting layout as a guide to know where to place the fabrics, but really we're going to kind of place everything butted next to each other as close as you can. You could use a pressing cloth here to avoid getting the fusible on your iron, but I just find that if I snug them up close together, that it works pretty well. And then I'll go ahead and I cut around all the fabric pieces to trim away any of the excess fusible, and it works pretty slick. Okay, so I've got everything fused and cut, and what I do is just match everything up with the label, and I just group them together. So all the pieces are grouped together, and I am all set to go. I also have all of my components that I'm going to need right away set next to my sewing machine. Okay, so we're on step one. This is making the strap holder. So we've got the fabric piece and the interfacing that's fused across here. We've got to leave those without interfacing. That'll help reduce the bulk when we're ready to sew it into the bag. But we're going to place it wrong sides together. Press it in half like that, matching these short ends. And then bring those short ends to meet at the center. Then in half again. And that'll give you that 1 inch width for your 1 inch D-ring, and it'll be 2.5 inches tall. And then we'll take it over to the sewing machine and do some top stitching along each edge, and then I like to do one down the middle. That's optional. Okay, so then you take the raw end of the strap holder and thread it through the D-ring and fold it back on itself in half like that, aligning those raw edges. And we're just going to baste or sew it together. Okay, so there you go, that's the strap holder. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the fabric strap if you choose to do a fabric strap. And really you can make it out of any fabric. It doesn't have to be the same as the exterior fabric. Could be kind of a cool design choice, but I just have a scrap here. You would have your strap be at least 44 inches or 42 inches long, however long the width of your fabric is, up to like 54 or 56 inches. And you would just piece them together by sewing the short sides together. Pressing that seam open is probably the easiest way to make a nice long strap. But what you'll do, so this will be the 6-inch wide width right here. And it's just like the strap holder that we just did, but you're going to fold it wrong sides together first in half. And I usually like to leave a little bit of this uninterfaced at the end of the actual strap if I was making a fabric one, just so that would be my finished end that I thread through the strap slider bar, the first step of making the strap, the adjustable strap. That way that little end there that's uninterfaced will be a little less bulky. If your fabric is super thick, I wouldn't bother trying to turn down that short end to make it a finished end. You could leave it raw and just zigzag it, or maybe just use some fray check. You really don't see it once the strap is finished, so that's another option too. We'll fold it in half again here. And also you could leave it without interfacing too. That's another choice. But then we'll go ahead for the fabric strap, just sew along these long ends, and you can add additional rows of top stitching in between too. So that would be a nice way to make the fabric strap. Okay, so now we're going to make the adjustable strap, and I like to first, you could zigzag this raw end of the webbing, or this would be your folded finished end of your fabric strap, but that will go up and over that center bar of your strap slider. And then I just like to take it past about 2 inches, enough to make sure I can get my machine and it won't get in the way, but then I'll sew a rectangle along this edge here. So I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so another option is just to turn under that end of the webbing to make it a finished end. Okay, so we've got the strap slider and we've got that folded over end, that finished end facing up. And then I'm going to slide the swivel snap through. And then that end is going to go up and over the center bar of the slider again, just like kind of did with the other end. And that's what makes it adjustable. So you've got your swivel snap on one end, your slider, that should be able to slide freely. If yours doesn't, now is a good time to take it apart and maybe just give it a try again. But we'll do it one more time. So we've got the slider here with your looped over end. Just as long as it's flat. Slide, swivel snap on, slide it down. And then that raw end goes up and over that bar. And then you can slide it. Okay, so there's your strap. And I like to adjust it pretty short when we're at this part. Okay, so we've got the shoulder connector pieces, and I'm just going to take the one that's interfaced, and I'm going to place my webbing. I've got my hardware. I'm just going to do it right side down. Oops. Place it right side down along that short end. It tapers to wider at the bottom here, so you're going to want to go along this 2.5 inch edge, and I'm going to baste it in place. Okay, so I'm going to baste it in place here, and you can put the strap, the raw end, just past the fabric here, and that kind of gives it a little more durability. Okay, so that's basted in place. And then we're going to go ahead and place the other piece of the shoulder connector right side down on top. And then we're going to sew along. We're going to sew along starting at this end here, up this side, across, and then back down the other angled side. Okay, so that's sewn. And then I'm going to do a couple additional reinforcement stitches in this seam allowance here. I'm just going to go back and forth a few times. And there's basically no way that's going to pull out from that piece. Okay, then I'm going to trim this seam allowance here and here. And then we'll take it over to the ironing board. Okay, so we're just going to pull it right side out here. Just pulling that strap. Sometimes I'll use my really big turning tool and just kind of get in there just to get that seam nice and crisp. Okay, so you could take it and top stitch it going down this edge, across the strap end here, and then up the other side if you'd like. I've always left them untop stitched, and it's worked out great for me. So, okay, so that's it for this week. We've got our strap all made with the shoulder connector attached, and we made the strap holder. And then we've got the rest of the pieces all cut and ready to go. And next week we're going to be working on the front pockets. So we'll show both the zipper pocket UA and the patch pocket with the flap, that's UB. So I hope you'll join me next week. See you then.